Guys, welcome back to round two of the Coliseum Forum triple feature. We just left Donnie Cates, John J. Hill, Jeff Shaw, and D. Kunis. And now we're joined by the equally talented Matt Fraction and Elsa Charretier. Guys, welcome to Coliseum Forum. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you for having us.
Great, thanks.
So in the pre-interview, I just want to point out to everybody the difference in quality between Elsa's feed and my feed, even though I do this professionally. She's just, she looks like she's on the set of a TV show or a movie, whereas I'm just out here in space a little bit. And then Matt put on his clean Motorhead t-shirt for us this morning, which is awesome. I guess it's afternoon even now for you, right? Like West Coast time?
It is, yes, it is.
But then for Elsa, you're in Paris, right?
I'm in the Paris time zone, but I'm south.
Okay. So it's, 11 there for you?
11:30.
Ooh, are we past your bedtime at this point?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so let's jump right into this then. So I want to talk a little bit about what you guys have going outside of what we're going to talk about today. First of all, Matt, congratulations. 69 whole issues, real issues of Sex Criminals. That is incredible. It's one of my favorite comics. Again, congratulations.
Yeah.
What?
Thanks. It went to press 2 days ago. We were either dotted, T's are crossed, and we wrapped. The plane is landed. We're done.
It also seems like those last 30 issues were
just flew
right by. Like it was like one issue or here, and then next thing issue 69.
I did. So the last issue is a coda to the series, and it takes place 3 years and 3 months after issue 30.
Okay.
As though we had published monthly consecutively.
Right. So it just skips ahead, and everybody's just supposed to be on board.
Yeah. But I realized this is actually the biggest leap we've asked the people to take. Please suspend your disbelief and believe that we could be a monthly comic for 69 consecutive months is somehow the most impossible thing we've asked people to go along with as well.
No, I have to tell you, and this is an absolute true story. So I'm the director of store operations for Coliseum Comics. My job is literally selling comics, right? My wife, ambivalent towards comics for most of our relationship until I gave her just the tips. And she was like, this is really funny. What is this? And I was like, oh, it's kind of like a comedic thing based on this other book. And now my wife reads comics. And part of that, I have you and Chip to thank for. So thank you so much for that, because it took years, and finally your little Cosmo inspired tip book tipped the scales in my favor. So
well, that's what the tips were. The tips were the scales in the favor of in your marriage. That was our titular tips. So thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Elsa, you've got your Kickstarter going on for your art book right now. I think we have about 2 weeks left on that, right?
Yep, about 2 weeks left, and boy, it is tiring.
Is this the first time
you are so good at it, and you make it look so effortless?
It's not. It's really a lot of work.
It is tremendous that none of that shows. You do it with a grace and a deftness, and it's fun to follow.
Good.
It's just
that's what we're going for.
Yeah, you're killing it.
So, if you guys are not familiar with what you're joining us to talk about today, we're going to be talking about these two super talented creators' book that they did together. This is actually the first time I get to whip out props on air, but we're going to be talking about November.
Oh, well,
yeah,
whew.
Yeah. No, I know.
I'm used to a different kind of podcast and book and things with people whip things out. With Chip and me, it's a whole other show.
No, exactly. I mean, you're the writer of Sex Criminals. I could see how that could go wrong. This, guys, I got to be honest, is one of my favorite comics. I will tell you, to anybody that is watching right now, it will be very frustrating if you read this book. This is the kind of comic you read if you don't need questions answered, because right now we are up to 2 volumes. If you read volume 2, it's not going to answer any of the questions you're going to have from volume 1. And in fact, you're probably going to have a few more questions. So shortly, guys, we have volume 3 coming, right? Are we finally going to get some?
October 21st is the thing. Is what it just punches you in the face with all the points converge and everything snaps together, and then you got to wait for volume 4.
Okay.
So volume 3 continues the acceleration
and puts all of the game pieces are on the board in the same place at the same time on the last page, and it's like one of my favorite cliffhangers that I've ever written.
Oh, of the previous two cliffhangers that were in the previous
just
books?
Ever in like it's a great place to stop a part 3 of 4.
Okay.
I was like, and it's as close to a Brian K. Vaughan last page as I've ever come. So.
Okay. That's super exciting because I mean you read volume 1 of this book and at first you're like, okay, Dee's the main character, but then you get to volume 2 and you're like, oh, maybe it's the 911 operator, the dispatcher, and then or M, right? But
right.
By the end of volume 2 you're like, I don't know whose story is this, right? So from Matt Fraction's mouth, volume 3 we get those answers. Kind
of. Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
As much as no.
Most of them, not all, but most of them.
Yeah, but and part of it is that the characters never get those answers either.
Right.
And some of it is addressing, it's a story about 3 women that are thrown into absolute chaos, and a violent carnage that they have little awareness of. Suddenly, they're all 3 strangers kind of put together and have to survive. So there's the resolution snaps to once they all kind of get together, but getting them together was its own kind of storyline. And all praise be to Elsa that it works because you care about them because she made them all look so real and so alive, it works entirely because Elsa, you are you, and
that's not true.
You have gifted the book. It's absolutely true. You've gifted the book.
It is not. Because now I'm going to speak, I'm going to talk, and I'm going to say that when I get scripts with characters, that feel so alive and dialogue that seems like spoken by actual people, it makes my job that much easier. So thank you, but it's not all me at all.
No, and I'll be honest, and I'm going to kind of spoil things. I'm going to pick up volume 2 and just flip to a random page so it doesn't actually spoil anything. But I mean, this is you. This is like what you do. It's always been my understanding that like France has its own kind of booming comic book scene, completely independent of like the U.S. comic book scene. How this is something I'm curious about. How do you two link up? How do you guys get together? And then how do we get this? Like, what is the origin of November?
Well, it'll started in Paris at Comic-Con, right?
Yeah.
Maybe 5 years ago when we met there, and I was a fan of Matt's work. I loved his Hawkeye and Sex Criminals, which was just starting to get published in France. And then we met and we became friends, and then you invited us to your house. So we went there for a week, and then I just asked if he wanted to do a book with me. And then he said yes, and it's just as simple as that.
Yeah, we got on like a house on fire, and that is a big help, I think, in collaborating. When you genuinely, it doesn't feel like an employee-employer relationship, or you don't feel like colleagues. You're just like, oh, come to my house, have food. There's a genuine enjoyment of one another. But sort of in terms of like where November comes from, there's a tier of Elsa's Kickstarter for her art book, which will get you the November Volume 2 commentary edition, which is turning into, at this point, a 10,000-word essay about how and why and where November came from. And it's one of it's fitting, as November was one of the most difficult things I've ever written, that this commentary would be one of the most difficult things I've ever written. But it's as much a document of our collaborative process and the process of discovery as it is, the book itself. Okay. The book is a collaborative process.
So do you guys like work together? Like, I mean, when already have like the seed for November, or is this, I mean, from the beginning, a collaboration?
No, and in fact, and I know this will be fascinating, Elsa, correct me if I'm wrong. I just kind of remember having a hazy kind of shape of a thing, and you knew the sort of thing you wanted to do, but nothing about it. Like we came at it ass backwards with these kind of abstract. I remember you wanted to do something.
Sorry, I think we had the same feeling of what would become the book, but had no plot, no characters, but just I knew that you had the same book in mind that I did before we even found the story of the characters. And that's why I felt, you know, I went 100% into this book, because I knew that we would find something that would combine both of our inspirations and what we wanted to do.
Yeah, we knew the vibe, I think. We were chasing vibe.
Yeah.
And the rest kind of came, well, give it to the Kickstarter. You can find out in excruciating detail how the rest of it came together.
So let me ask this. And I don't know if this is, you know, part of the Kickstarter. Why is the book called November?
Well, nobody would read a book called April.
Yeah, but like in volume 2, it's October.
Well, March was already taken. It does beg the question why November 2 wasn't called December, I suppose. It spoke to the vibe of the thing. It spoke to the tone of the thing, and the sort of formalism that the book would take on. You know, the sort of the 12-panel grid, and it sort of it fit. It was thematically appropriate, and it takes place on the last night of October, the first day of November. You know,
right.
These women have to survive the first day of November.
There it goes.
And I remember it being like a working title at first. I remember it's called November right now. It might change, and it didn't. And I think it works perfectly with the book.
Yeah, it just. Yep. Anything else would have been the wrong month.
So so I mean, just potentially, could there be a sequel called August?
I guess, yeah, but I don't know. No, it feels like it ends well. It feels like it's a complete thought. I don't think there's
not a sequel it
doesn't feel like a sequel.
No, it is so tightly knitted. I don't see how and why we would add anything to it.
So let me ask you guys this. The lettering in that book is different than a lot of lettering that you'll see in any other books. I mean, it almost looks like, you know, a freehand casual cursive. What was the idea of going with that stylistic choice versus like a standard comics lettering?
Well, our lettering is by a cartoonist named Kurt Ankeny, who I became aware of through Frank Santoro's comics school in Pittsburgh, the Rojas residency program. And Kurt is an incredibly gifted cartoonist in his own right. He has a book out now called Pleading with Stars. If you think his handwriting's great, wait till you see how he draws, because holy Jesus. Let alone writes. This is the trick. Anyone out there who's a writer looking to get into comics as a career, here's a tip, and keep it a secret. Keep it between us. Trick people who don't need you into working with you. That's a big thing I do. That's my move. Everything about November felt, it was chasing that vibe. You know, there's something analog. I wanted it. There's even, Elsa stopped working digitally and taught herself to work with traditional analog brush and ink and pen on paper. You know, like you were an entirely digital artist up to that point. Isn't that right? Like you basically, I remember being into it a little bit and you going, oh, by the way, I'm using inks and brushes and paper now, and I'm not drawing with a Wacom tablet anymore. So I have to kind of relearn how to draw everything. Like, okay, great.
No, but it ties up to what you were saying about the lettering. It had to be raw. It had to be organic, and it makes it feel that much closer to the characters. You know, it's kind of a barrier that we would maybe have had with the digital lettering that is just not there. So you're just much more immersive, I found
and
it.
as an extension of the collaboration, Kurt's idea was that everybody would have their own kind of font. And that was not us. And like Kay's handwriting is based on Mother Teresa's handwriting. Like he's making these kind of beautiful choices that entirely inform the book, that make the book. It makes it just all of it is of a piece. The colors by Matt Hollingsworth is and the package design by Ryan Hughes. Like it was a murderer's row of collaborators because we wanted a kind of all-in group collaboration.
Yeah.
It's a reunion of, you know, creators. We each have our specialty, but I feel like we've kind of we didn't feel constricted to a specific role, you know. It felt much more collaborative than just each other's doing our own thing. And so that was very different from what I was used to. You know, when you work for hire, everyone just do their thing and pass it on to the next person. And, you know, it feels like you're just part of a process and not part of the entire creation of the book. And the difference in the way we worked on November was that we all made together a series of books, actually. But.
Right. That look fantastic on a bookshelf. I can't wait to see what 3 and 4 look like on my shelf, because I think it's gonna be really nice.
It should be arriving here, like, although I don't know, everything's screwy now. It's a little hard to tell, but like it should be arriving either really soon or it'll come here after the book is on stands. I don't know. But I'm in the window where at any point now a box might show up, and I'm just like.
So let me ask you this, because so I'm sorry. Go ahead, Elsa.
Sorry, I was just saying that Volume 4 is actually going to the press like soon. Yeah. So it's all drawing to a close. I'm sad.
Now let me ask you.
Basically, dotting I's and crossing T's this weekend, and
it's farewell.
End of the road.
So let me ask you guys this, because November has been such a great book. Is there the possibility of collaboration between you two in the future?
Oh, most definitely.
Oh, in a New York minute. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anytime,
Yeah. Now, outside of November, you guys have worked on a ton of different stuff. I mean, Elsa, your Star Wars, The Forces of Destiny stuff. I mean, your art, just period, is so beautiful. But to have that book and be able to give it to my niece, who is like a huge Star Wars stan, and your like amazing work in there, like that's incredible. Or Matt, I mean, and this is still just a rumor at this point, but apparently they're gonna make a whole TV show based on your Hawkeye run. Like, I mean, for you guys to be so talented and then get together and create this November book, I mean, I just don't, like, how do you two, you know, not only get together, and I understand it's through the Paris Comic-Con, but then, you know, formulate the book that's going to become November, right? So we're at Volume 2, we've got Volume 3 coming, and then now Volume 4, you guys are dotting the I's, crossing the T's. What do you guys do next after this?
I don't. Elsa, you go first.
No, I was waiting for you to go first. Damn it. What I've got a thing, but that's all I can say. So
you got a thing, but that's all you can say. Okay.
I've got another book announced soonish, I guess. But that's it.
Yeah. And I am, we have Adventure Man. I think 4 actually came out this week. There's a book I do with Terry and Rachel Dodson, and that'll the second arc of that starts up later in the year. Terry's drawing issue 5 now. But by and large, I am kind of the teleschool adjunct in my house, helping my 2 kids kind of get through things, and I'm kind of not writing too much stuff at all right now, and just kind of planning when I come back, what new stuff will be. So it's that exciting time of like, ooh, what do I want to do first? What do I want to, you know? So I'm trying to figure out
what's next,
what I'm going to binge on. Yeah. But literally, I'm not writing anything right now, which is crazy to me.
Well, when we did our Zeb Wells Coliseum Forum, he let slip that he had worked on the She-Hulk show that they're working on. Do you have any hand in the Hawkeye show?
Oh, I'm not Zeb Wells. You're not going to fool me.
Foiled again. Foiled again. Wow, you guys froze for a second, and I literally thought you guys were gone, but then it's just you guys are like, oh, I didn't want to answer that question, so was it very slow.
I have a backdrop that's me like looking at the camera and listening, and sometimes I would just make that my backdrop and leave.
Oh, let's see it. Let's do it.
It's me. Yeah. I'll screw something up. Never mind. Besides, we're half screened. It won't read. It'll just be weird. So.
Okay. So Elsa, we touched on this a little bit already. You've got 14 days left in the Kickstarter, but you've put a lot of work into this. It sounds like. I mean, Matt implied that it's very, very tiresome. Is that true? I mean, with the Kickstarter thing.
It is. Well, first of all, this is the entire campaign. It's my job. I'm not drawing a book right now. First of all, because I haven't started on my new project. But that's the way I tend to do Kickstarters, is that I do it at 100%, not when I have the time, I will tinker with the campaign. No, it's my job from morning to night. That's all I do. And my partner, Pierre Collinet, who's also a writer and who wrote Forces of Destiny that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
We do that together. So that's basically all we've been doing for the past 2 months, and then 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks prior to the campaign to, put it together.
Oh, so by the time this is done, we're 6 weeks in, all of a sudden done before even the end.
Yeah.
Because it was 2 weeks before it started. It's been for
backers,
2 weeks. I'm sorry, Matt.
Sorry, Billy, go ahead.
No. You please.
Backers of her first one know that Eric and she, like, even the packaging is exquisite. Like everything is like everything is safe and considered, and it arrives, and it's like there's like a million little decisions and a million different disciplines you have to make this work as well as it does. And it's you guys do tremendous.
Thank you. Well, that's what's exciting to me, in the idea of doing a Kickstarter, is that for a few weeks you get to step out of your usual job, I guess, and dabble into other jobs like graphic designers or filming crew or marketing, and that's very interesting to PR. That's very interesting. We learn a lot, and then we come back to our own job with a new perspective and new ideas, and that's always very inspiring and motivating. So, and you were mentioning packaging. I love packaging, and I keep the best packages that I get. I just keep them because it's something that I love. I don't know. It's weird, but...
Do you open the packages, or you just like keep...
I do. I open them, and then I keep the boxes whenever they are, very well thought out, or that I find them pretty or interesting, or it's something that maybe could inspire me at some point in the future. I keep them. Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, it'd be funny if you didn't open them and it's just like you're waiting for this package from Amazon and it came, but it's just on a shelf because you love the packaging so much.
Is it that different from, keeping a toy inside a box? Yeah. I don't know. You tell me.
Fair. Very fair. So now the question I was going to ask earlier, and I got to be honest with you guys, I'm super excited to be talking to you, so I kind of lost my train of thought there. The question I was going to ask was, it sounds like November is a very collaborative book between the different hands that go into the pot. But let me ask you this. So from the time, Matt, how long does it take you to do a script for, say, like Volume 1 or Volume 3?
Well, I mean, there's an argument to be made that it took 43 years to write Volume 1.
Fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, like, you have to...
that might be a little too existential for us.
There's a lot of work up here, and like Elsa would be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you just wrote that fast." And I'm like, "Well, it was all I figured it out. That was what the typing is the slowest. The typing is the easiest and fastest part, especially with a book like this. But once I had it figured, I could just type it. But the writing happened entirely like in a notebook by longhand, and it was you'll see more in the commentary edition, but it was so it feels deceptive. It feels like it might appear that, oh my God, you wrote 12 pages in a day or whatever. But it's like, well, I typed 12 pages in a day after 6 weeks of thinking about those 12 pages constantly, you know?
Right.
So it's hard. It's hard to say.
I don't know that, if it's something that a lot of writers experience or work that way. The fact that you were saying that the typing is the writing's the script, is typing up, basically.
So
you see my house? You see my Sasquatch back there?
that's a Sasquatch? Oh, yeah. I mean, you are, yeah, in that region of the country. And also, but when Matt gets you a script, and it sounds like it takes a very long time, over 4 decades, when you finally do get the script, how long does it take you to do what you do? Because, I mean, your work is absolutely gorgeous. So, like, from
I'm much faster than Matt.
Yeah.
So not 4 decades.
No, I'm not. No, I draw a page a day, sometimes more. On volume 3, you'll have, or I guess it's more true for volume 4, we have lots of 3-panel pages. Those pages are much quicker to draw, obviously,
Sure.
than versus the 12 panel
right.
pages. But yeah, a page a day. And I could do more, but then I have no social life, which I guess wouldn't be a problem right now. But a page a day is good. I can have a life. That's
Sure.
good balance.
And in a world where I'm working and kind of balanced and ahead of things, I mean, I can usually write 20 to 30 pages a week.
Okay.
But it just because, but then just like on an average, at one point, like at Marvel, I was writing 6.5 books a month.
Right.
It wasn't fun, but I did it. But so
that sounds horrifying to me.
Yeah, no, it was not good. It was not a good time. But yeah, no, but this was different. It's also a really, it's 12 panel pages, so it's a lot of stuff.
Right.
And I've kind of changed about that, because I used to want to gather as much experience and as much drawing as I could. So I would draw much more. I guess at some point it was up to 2 pages a day, which was too much. And right now I decided, okay, I'm gonna maybe spend the same amount of time working on a single page than I would have on 2 pages. Because my progression is now slower, because I've been drawing for, a few years now.
Sure.
And I feel like it's the details that matter, and that will actually make my work better. And if I don't spend enough time on those details and, really thinking it through, how can I make this better, rather than just drawing as a reflex. So I, now I prefer to work slower, but
Sure.
better.
More deliberately.
Yes.
That was one of the things that I was writing about, was my recollection is you said you weren't sure what you wanted to do, but you wanted it to be smart. You wanted to work on something that made you smarter, and that was really intimidating to me. I knew I had to, oh boy. But that was an objective. You wanted to work on a thing that pushed you in new directions and made you exercise new muscles and reconsider how you used old ones.
And it did. I mean, it just did.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this. Again, and you guys said this was a collaboration. How much of the look of the book is are you responsible for, Elsa, versus Matt's script notes, versus when you're designing these characters and the setting for Zootown and things like that? How did you come up with the look of those things? Because I mean, even your art's very beautiful. Even the backgrounds are kind of part of the story, right? So how did you guys come up with, what this part of the city is going to look like versus, what is this character going to look like, or this character, and Mr. Man or D or any of those guys? How does that happen?
Well, what I liked when I got a script, I guess it was before a script, when you have the pitch laid out and all the characters, is that none of them have a physical description, or it was very, not very specific, but there was the way the characters were described kind of gave me a feeling of who they were and what they would feel as person if I were to meet them.
Okay.
And that's And that's really the most important thing, you know, as an artist, because I am free to put my own interpretation into Matt's words, onto Matt's words.
Right.
And something about the shift in your work to the brush too, like it made everything so human. I feel like I wrote a lot of invisible things for you to draw, you know?
Yeah, yeah, you did. And that was a nice challenge because it's not something, you know, like you said, it's very abstract, but it adds to the feeling of the book. And so I had to find a way to sort of translate that mood, that feeling. But that was very interesting because the scripts were not very specific at all, but
Sure.
somehow what you wrote felt very specific. And it felt more and more specific as we went along in the book, and then I knew what you meant.
Yeah, and you know, it's a book with a logic to the way it uses grids, and there's a reason why the chapters are the shape and the size and the length they are, and everything has this kind of numerical logistics, the system underneath it, pinning it down. So, in the face of something that rigid. It made like everything then everywhere there could be things that were interpretive, that were abstract, that were loose and analog, like that was where that would needed to be played up. Like I wrote entirely into like interiority stuff. I wrote entirely, here's what she is feeling, here's what she's regretting, this is what she's worried about. And like there's sort of a noun and a verb, you know, she sits,
Right.
she stands, and then it would be like she stands because she can't believe this guy is giving her the same bullshit he's always given her, and she has to keep dealing with it. I don't know how that's different than just standing, but that would be the challenge for then you to draw. Like,
yeah, and you know, I used to be an actress. I used to learn about, you know, those skills, so that spoke to me. The physicality of, you know, feeling something, how one would express it, physically speaking. So that was then my work was to translate what I felt was right. But that was very interesting. And to go back to what you were saying earlier, Phil, about the backgrounds, and you were saying that the city feels alive, and you know, it is, the city is a character, and to me, it's also a storytelling device. You know, all the backgrounds that I chose and the way that I presented them was there to build the panels.
No, absolutely.
You know,
I think it shows through in the book without a doubt, which is kind of part of my next question. And I know we're getting a little bit short of time, and I know it's late for you, and but I do want to ask this, and I know this is like asking, you know, what's your favorite child, but I mean, you guys have both worked on some amazing projects. For you, what has been your favorite projects that you guys have done?
well, we got to say November, right? November.
Yeah, no, of course, right. It's got to be
and
November.
That's the best.
I'm not even being polite. It's just true.
No, so like I said, I brought my copies of November with me to the office today because I could show them, off. It's the first time I remember doing props in the interview. And my wife, as I'm leaving, she's like, "Hey, are you taking those with you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "I was gonna read those tonight." I was like, "Well, you have to wait till tomorrow. Sorry, I need them for the interview."
You know, you hit us up tomorrow. We can get you a PDF of 4, and she can read them all. And
what? No, whoa, time out, because like, you know, me.
All right. I'll give you the middleman. That's fine.
That's fine. I will safely get those to her, but I won't look. I won't.
There you go. That's fair.
Guys,
that's fair.
You guys are the absolute coolest. I can't believe my job lets me talk to you guys and pays me to do this, because this is the coolest thing that's ever happened. Guys, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, no, literally, I'm here and I'm talking to some of my favorite comics creators about a book that I'm a big fan of. So again, guys, thank you so much for doing this, and good luck on November 3, even though I know it's going to be huge. So
fingers crossed. Thank you. And Elsa's Kickstarter, if you go to Kickstarter, you just look like Elsa Comics.
Kickstarter is in the link. Kels, it's in the link of the chat right now. Go click on it. Go back this project. You'll love it. Her art is amazing. It is beautiful. I 100% stand by it. If you come see me in the shops, I will talk to you about how awesome Elsa is. So in the link, click the link right now. back that project. Yeah, guys, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.